Top of the day, beautiful people. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. Shayla, great rising. Audrey, shalom. Belinda Brown, great rising. Great rising. All right, beautiful people. It is Sunday, June the 19th, 2022, day 137 of year 4 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 4-year consecutive day count, day 1155. Today, we're going to pick back up on page 151 in the book of God's Word in the Oahspe. And then we're going to finish the rest of the meditation book, picking that up on page 186. All right, let's get started. Mom, shalom, shalom. Father, we thank you for another day. We ask you to bless all those early risers who rise early, searching for you and for your truth. Hallelujah. Okay, y'all. So 151? No, that was 151. 147 or 151. Oh, I'm still looking at the top part. Okay, we at the bottom. Chapter 3. I was looking up at the book of Ragged Patty, y'all. All right. Chapter 3. When Asha had gone, Ehua Mazda spake to Tuchi, the virgin mother, saying, Take thou thy child away and hide thyself, lest the king have thee and thy child put to death. So yesterday we remember that after she had this baby, first of all, it seemed like she was in a daze or she was unconscious the entire time she was pregnant, and she didn't realize that her child was not of immaculate birth. She did actually get pregnant by somebody, right? But because she was in a coma, she didn't remember. She didn't remember any of that, right? And also, this particular child was capable of all light, and which means that they can be used as a conduit for the spirit of Yah to flow through and to speak, or matter of fact, any spirit, right? Okay. When Asha had gone, Ehua Mazda spake to Tuchi, the virgin mother, saying, Take thou thy child away and hide thyself, lest the king have thee and thy child put to death. So Tuchi departed with her child and hid away in another part of the city. Now Asha went direct to Soki, the king, and related what had transpired. When he had finished, the king said, According to the histories of the ancients, when a god appears among mortals, there are signs and miracles. Thou hast only told me words. Go therefore again to the child and say, The king desireth a miracle. Asha returned the next day, but lo and behold, the woman and child were gone, and not one of the neighbors knew whither. Asha said, If I go before the king with this story, he will have me slain as an inventor of lies. So he returned not to the king. Interesting. Interesting. The story sounds familiar to JC when they left and he was born in a manger and everything. Remember King Harold's like, oh, I heard it was the Savior who was born. Y'all go tell me what his child is, so I can come and worship him too, right? But we know that the 3 wise men never returned to the king. The king was livid about that, right? So same thing here. Asha knew that the king would be livid, so he did not return to the king. But where Tuchi and her child dwelt, there came a maker of songs, saying, by name Chojan, and he spake to the virgin, saying, Where is the child? She answered, He sleepeth in the rack of hay. I will fetch him. So she brought the child from its bed of new hay, fetching straws with its mantle. Neither had the straws roots. So it looked like this Tucci baby in the manger too. Okay. Yahuwah Mazda spake through the child while its own spirit slept, saying, I come to thee, O Chojan, I brought thee hither, for thou shalt frame songs about the virgin's babe. Chojan was frightened, but nevertheless he said, Can it be true in this enlightened age, a miracle? Shall I talk to thee, O child? Then Yahuwah Mazda said, Behold, thou speakest not to the child, but to Ahua Mazda. Take these straws to thy writing box and plant them in new earth, and in one day they shall grow and bear ripe wheat. So Chojan departed and planted the straws, and in one day they grew and bore ripe wheat. Chojan had slung his songs before the king, and so had permission of the court, and he went and told the king the miracle. The king said, the philosopher Asha told me about this child, and I sent him for a miracle, but he returneth not. Thou hast come and said, behold, a miracle. What value is a miracle save to those who witness it? Shall thy king take a thing in belief only? Is not belief the fruit of darkness? Go therefore again to the child and bring it before me, that I may see it with my own eyes. Choji returned to the place, but lo and behold, the virgin and the child were gone. Neither knew the neighbors whither, but she was concealed in another part of the city. And now there came before her one Oshan, who was weeping because the apparent death of his son. To him, Ahura Mazda spake, saying, weep not, O man, I have healed thy son, and have also given sight to thy daughter. Oshan trembled at such words coming from the lips of a child, and he ran away, finding of a truth his son was healed and his daughter restored to sight. In his joy, he returned to the place, but the virgin and child were gone. Oshan was hostler to the king and capable of audience, and so he went and told the king of his good fortune. The king said, Asha, the philosopher, told me a fine story of this child, but when I sent him for information, he returned not. Then came Chogan, the maker of songs, telling me what he had witnessed. I sent him to have the mother and the child brought before me, but he returned not. Now thou comest with a miracle, such as were told in the dark ages. Go thou therefore and search the city over, till thou findest this wonder, and bring it before me. On the next day, another man, even the king's brother's son, came before the king, saying, this day I have seen such a wonder as would have been marvelous in the days of angels and gods. Behold, a little child has spoken to me such words of philosophy as made me tremble. And yet, O king, thou knowest I am no coward. My house is hung with 100 scalps. A and this child already proclaimeth Zarathustra in communion with the God Ahura Mazda. And after proclaimeth is reference number 3, and it says proclaimeth itself Zarathustra. To me it said, why killest thou the sons and daughters of thy God? Think not that thy multitude of scalps are a glory before heaven. Behold, I am stronger with my little finger than Soki the king. Interesting about that strong little finger. Remember, King Solomon's wise counselors tried to talk to his son, and he said he carried more power in his little finger than his father's thigh did. Interesting. Soki the king said, it is enough. Save this mother and child be brought at once before me, that I may behold the truth of these wonders. Every male child in Oahspe shall be cast into fire. The king's brother's wife had a child, and the son's wife had a child, and they foresaw the decree of the king touched them closely. So there went forth many, searching for Tucci and Zarathustra. But the spirit, Ahura Mazda, directed the mother to go beyond the gates and led her far off into the forest of goats, where the tribe of Listians lived by fishing and hunting and on goat's milk. Ahura Mazda talked to the virgin, saying, 20 years shalt thou tarry in the forest, fearing not, for thy God will provide for thee. Interesting. Killing all the male children, 40 years in the forest of the wilderness. 20 years shalt thou tarry in the forest, fearing not, for thy God will provide for thee. And when thy son shall be large and stronger than other men, behold, thy God will manifest for the redemption of the races of men who are hunted and slain for the glory of kings. So it came about that the virgin and her son dwelt in the forest of goats until Zarathustra was a large man and of mature years, and his stature was equal to 3 ordinary men, nor could any number of men lay him on his back. But because of his gentleness, like a young goat, the tribes of the forest called him the Lamb of God, signifying strength and goodwill. Ali, Shalom, O great spirit. Let me read what you said. Hold on. Thank you, O great spirit Jehovah, for your truth through your angelic hosts. Hallelujah. Okay, y'all. So this is chapter 4. When Soki the king issued the decree to have Zarathustra found and brought before him, otherwise all male infants of Oahspe to be slain, the Lord sent the Lords sent travail on the king's wife and on the king's daughter, wife of Asha the philosopher, and the 2 women gave birth the same day to 2 sons, a month before their time, but nevertheless unto life and strength and beauty. Now, according to the laws of Oahspe, a king could not rescind or change his own decrees, for he had assumed the position of infallibility, whereupon he had doomed to death kin of his kin, flesh of his flesh. Accordingly, after search had been made in vain to find Zarathustra, the king repented of his decree, but knew no way to justify a change of commandment. Asha, hearing of this, came out of concealment, saying to himself, now will I go to the king and hold him to his decree, even demanding that he slay me also. So Asha came before Soki, and after saluting, O king, I have heard of thy strait, and I am come to thee that I may counsel thee. The king was angered, and he said, Asha, my friend, hear thou the king. Thou camest before me, relating a marvelous story regarding an infant son of the virgin who said she never knew a man. Now, according to the laws of the city of the sun, any man stating for truth that which he cannot prove is already adjudged to death. Shall not the law be fulfilled, because forsooth thou art near me in blood? Asha said, most assuredly, O king, the laws must be carried out. Are they not the all highest? For it followeth that man being the all highest person, his laws, above all else, must never be set aside. Therefore thou shalt have me slain. Think not that I am come before thee to plead an excuse in order to save myself. Rather let all men perish than that the king's decrees go amiss. The king said, thou art wise, O Asha. The laws cannot err, for they are the standard by which to judge all else. And he who hath risen to be king standeth by nature the infallible highest of all things. History has proven this. But yet hear me, thou whom hast seen wisdom from movements of the sun and moon and stars, the king being the all highest, how can he be bound? Cannot he decree new decrees forever? So we see he got a little pride issue going on. This king here, thinking he's the all highest, but now he's bound by his law. But you're the all highest, huh? Asha said, I will not deceive thee, O king. I know thou art arguing not for me, but for thy own infant son, and for thy daughter's infant son. Never have I come before thee in prowess, though I love life. But there is the matter. If thou change one law, thou admittest that all laws made by man may also need changing, which is to say, wisdom is folly. How then shall the judge judge any man by the laws? Is it not setting up error in order to find truth? The king said, thou reasonest well. Methoughts this morning in my walk in the market gardens, when the soldiers were spreading the scalps of the when their soldiers were spreading the scalps of their enemies in the sun to dry, whether or no in ages to come the weaker nations and tribes of men might not attempt to justify their right to life, and were the kings to admit fallibility in their decrees and laws, no man can foresee the end. For even slaves and servants and women will rise up against the laws and claim their right to life. and should they not? Wherein, excuse me, wherein then would the earth be large enough for all the people? Yet wherefore, O Asha, come this heartache of mine against killing my own son? Asha said, what are thy sympathies, O king? If thou wert to justify the escape of thy child's death for sympathy, would not my wife and my children justify their sympathy in desiring me to live? Nay, sympathy is the enemy of the law and justice. It is the evil in our natures that crieth out for evil. The laws must be maintained. The decrees must be maintained. The king's word must be maintained. No man must suffer his judgment to go higher than the law or the decree or the king. Asha said, this is the city of the sun. If this city goeth back on its own laws, what will not the tributary cities do? Will not they also begin to disrespect the laws or say, perhaps the laws are in error? This will come to anarchy. To one purpose only can a great city be maintained. To divide the purposes and judgments of men is to scatter to the four winds the glory of our civil liberty. Was it not disrespect of the laws, combined with superstition, that caused the nations of the ancients to perish? The king said, what shall I do, O Asha? My son hath smiled in my face. Oh, you don't want that baby to die now. You was hot-headed and you just threw out decrees because you was pissed because you didn't get what you want. Now you realize that your own family is about to suffer the decree that you faded for everybody else that you thought was your enemy. Bruh. What goes around comes around. The king don't know what to do now. The king said, what shall I do, O Asha? My son hath smiled in my face. Asha said, thou shalt send me and thy son and thy daughter's son and all male infants to the slaughter pen and have all of us beheaded and cast into the fire. Otherwise, it will come true what the infant Zarathustra hath said. Behold, my hand shall smite the city of Oahspe, and it shall fall as a heap of straw. Think not, O king, I am superstitious and fear such threats, but this I perceive. Suffer the laws to be impeached, and every man in Oahspe was set up to interpret the laws to be wrong and himself right. And thy officers will rebel against thee on all sides, and the glory of thy kingdom will perish. After the city had been searched for 30 days, and the virgin and child not found, the king appointed a day for the slaughter, according to his former decree, and there were 90,000 male infants adjudged to death, the king's son among the rest. While these matters were maturing, the Lord went to Chojan and inspired him to make songs about Zarathustra, the infant that was stronger than the king, and also songs about the decree of death to the 90,000 infant sons of Oahspe. And the beauty of the songs, together with the nature of these proceedings, caused the songs to be sung in the streets day and night, and the songs in satire approved of the horrors, so that even the king could not interdict the singing. Chapter 5. When the day arrived for the slaughter of the male infants, not more than 1,000 mothers appeared at the place of execution with their infants, the others having risen in the night previous and departed out of the gate, upward of 99,000 mothers. You think we out of here, my G? I catch y'all on the flip side. We out. Y'all gonna have to kill us while we running. When the king went to the place of execution, having set apart the day as a holiday, and not finding but 1,000 infants present, he inquired the reason, and having been told, he said, can it be that mothers love their offspring more than they respect the decrees of the king? Could be. Asha was standing near, having stripped himself ready for execution, and he answered the king, saying, because they love their offspring, it is not the love of the flesh. Hold on. Because they love their offspring, is it not the love of the flesh? And doth not the law stand above all flesh? In this matter, then, because they have evaded the law, they have adjudged themselves to death also. Well, take me in chains, O king, and you will have to kill me first before I let you kill my sons. Then came Batraj, The king's wife bringing the infant. Oh, she faithful to the end. But Traj said, "Here is thy son, O king, ready for sacrifice. I shall reasoneth well. There must be an all highest, which never erreth, which is the law of the king. Take thou thy flesh and blood and prove thy decrees. What? Why hesitate? If thou swerve one jot or tittle, then shalt thou open the door for all men to find an excuse against the law." Let me take this back. I think she's saying this sarcastically, like she know he can't do it. That's what I think. Let me read this again. Then came Batraj, the king's wife, bringing the infant. But Traj said, "Here is thy son, O king, ready for the sacrifice. Asher reasoneth well. There must be an all highest which never erreth, which is the law of the king. Take thou thy flesh and blood and prove thy decrees. What? Why hesitate? If thou swerve one jot or tittle, then thou shalt open the door for all men to find an excuse against the law. Doth not the sun blight a harvest when he will? Yea, the strike dead our most beloved? Art thou not descended from the sun gods? Who will obey the laws if thou thyself do not?" The king said, "Behold, it is yet early morn. Let the officers go fetch all who have escaped beyond the walls, and both mothers and children shall be put to death. Till then, let the proceedings be suspended." He trying to find a way to stop this, what he's done. Now there had been congregated a vast multitude anxious to witness the slaughter. And when the king suspended matters, there went up cries of disappointment, and many said, "When a thing toucheth the king, he is a coward." Boy, I see he didn't have the wisdom of who was that? Um uh who Esther's king, Artaxerxes or King Xerxes. Right. He was dealing with the same issue when he decreed all the Jews be slaughtered, right? But I guess this king doesn't realize that even if he make a law like this, according to the king's law, maybe he's just not realizing that you can create another law without violating the law that you did that supersedes the law that your last law that you've just decreed, right? Just like when Xerxes said, "Everybody, you see a Jew, you kill a Jew," right? But then he created a law because he was completely torn, not realizing his wife would be killed as well. He said, "Okay, I know I said that all Jew can kill a Jew, and I can't undo the laws that I done did. But here's a new law that I decree. Every Jew who wants to live has the right to fight for their life." Bruh, they all banded together, and that previous law went out the window. Everybody was afraid to touch them. But who can fight for the children? The king said, "Behold, it is yet early morn. Let the officers go fetch all who have escaped beyond the walls, and both mothers and children shall be put to death. Till then, let the proceedings be suspended." Now there had congregated a vast multitude, anxious to witness the slaughter. And when the king suspended matters, there went up cries of disappointment, and many said, "When a thing toucheth the king, he is a coward." The king returned to his palace, leaving Asha standing stripped for the execution. And the multitude cried out, excuse me, "More is Asha like a king than Soki. Let us make him king, King Soki. We will not have a sheep for a king." And none could stay them or be heard above their noise. And they ran after the king and slew him with stones. And they made Asha king of the sun. And there was not one infant slain according to the decrees. Boy, Go saith, "Think not, O man, that things happen without a cause, or that all things are left to chance. In my works I go beforehand and plan the way, even more carefully than a captain layeth siege to a city. Before Zarathustra was born, I sent Ashars to choose out of my personages. Think not that Asha made his own arguments, but by virtue of the presence of my Ashars, whom he saw not, he spake and behaved in my commandments, not knowing it. And even so was it that the king's wife, My angels also inspired her to speak before the king, and those that fled out of the city were inspired by my host of angels. And remember, Ashars are, I wrote it down yesterday too. I be getting Ashars and Asaphs mixed up. The Asaphs are the guardian angels. The Ashars are the rank above the guardian angels for when you die, the Asaphs guide your spirit to the Ashars, and the Ashars take you to the kingdom the kingdom in heaven where you belong to. Whether you go to the true light or you go into the false God's kingdom, right? Because if you die believing in falsities, that's the kingdom where you go to until you're purged of all this untruth. Hold on, let me just double check. Ashar. Okay, yeah. Ashars, guardian angels over mortals, Asaphs, receive the spirits of the dead into heaven. Okay. Receive the spirits of all who died from the Ashars and place them with my lords. Okay, yeah. Ashars are the guardian angels. I said that backwards. I did. I said that backwards. Hold on. MS. What is this over here? In the presence of my Ashars. Okay, yeah, I said it backwards. Ashars are the guardian angels. So the guardian angels was working with Asha during this time to bring all this about. Okay. Ashars are guardian angels. Asaphs are the rank above the Ashars. Okay. That's on page 797 in the back, y'all. 796 and 797. It's in a dictionary. With an index, rather. Okay. Get some water. Okay. Verse 7, I read again. God said, think not, O man, that things happen without a cause, or that all things are left to chance. In my works, I go beforehand and plan the way, even more carefully than a captain layeth siege to a city. Before Zarathustra was born, I sent Ashars to choose out of my personages. Think not that Asha made his own arguments, but by virtue of the presence of my Ashars, whom he saw not, he spake and behaved in my commandments, not knowing it. And even so it was with the king's wife. My angels also inspired her to speak before the king, and those that fled out of the city were inspired by my host of angels. Okay, so also, I was reading here, I don't remember exactly where because I was doing a lot of looking on the Ashars and Asaphs and the rankings and stuff. But according to the ranks, and I'm actually going to. I know what I posted yesterday was lengthy with the hierarchy and the ranks. Perry, shalom. Tiffany, hey girl, hey Linda, shalom, shalom. But I'm gonna do another one. It's gonna take me a few days. I'm gonna with those same ones with that same list. I'm gonna put the job description, so to speak, of what all of them actually do. The one I posted yesterday is like the ranks. Most of it is in order, so to speak. But what I put, it should tell you who they come after or who's highest and lowest or whatever if you read it. But the next one that I do is going to be similar. It's going to have all the job descriptions, what they do, what portion of the earth they rule, where they're at, who's attached to mortals as guardian angels, and the guardian angels, the rules being the Ashars, the guardian angels. You cannot, one of the rules is that they cannot make themselves sing to the mortals whom they guard. All of that is in here. And I was just putting down like all these different notes and stuff. So instead of just talking about it sporadically and randomly like I do, I'm gonna put it all together because we're looking for all this stuff. Although it's all in here, I want to kind of make a little summary for those who like, all right, just give it to me so as I'm reading through, I can be paying attention. I'm like that. I just kind of give me the summary. I like to read summaries in the back of books and all that stuff first. That way, when I go through and make sure I'm looking at everything right and not doing all this searching for something. So, yeah. All right, verse 8. God said, "Yet with the king's decrees I had no part, for I foresaw he would do this of his own will, and with the multitude in slaying the king I had no part, for I saw they would do this on their own account. Neither would the multitude hear my voice, even though I had spoken to every man's soul, for in them tetracts, for in them tetracts were the ascendant power." God said, "The multitude slew the king because he had gone so far from me, he heeded me not. And I made Asha king because he came so near me, my power was with him through my Ashars." Chapter 6. Also, it's funny because yesterday I was looking up Asaph, and I actually thought originally yesterday, that was actually in the list yesterday. And when I was researching, I actually thought Asaph was an actual rank, but then I actually had him listed. And if you saw it while I had it posted, you would have saw him up there. Then I went back and deleted him when I realized, I'm like, wait, no, Asha is a person, not a rank. And hold on. A mortal learned in many things. So I was thinking Asha was like a rank you can attain to while being mortal, like you can attain to be a mortal, learned of many things, right? To where you set yourself. And although you can, but that I realized yesterday, that's called something else in here. Once I get all that together, I'm gonna put that in there as well. But Asha is actually a person which we learned about, we read about today. I didn't even know that we were going to be reading about him today. But he is an actual person, and he was very learned in a lot of things. And this is just the beginning. Okay. Chapter 6. During the infant age of Zarathustra, God manifested no more through him, but he sent Ijaj, one of his lords, to be with Zarathustra day and night. And Ijah taught the infant wisdom in all things, but showed himself to none else. When Zarathustra was yet a child, and it has reference number 4, excuse me, after child, and it says was half grown. When Zarathustra was yet a child or half grown, the Lord began to manifest through him, giving signs and miracles and prophecy before the Listians who lived in the forest of goats. This forest was of the width this forest was of the width in every direction, save the east, of 40 days' journey for a man, and in all that region there were no houses, inhabitants living in tents made of bark and skin. The inhabitants living in tents made of bark and skins. The Lord inspired Zarathustra to teach them to build houses and tame the goats and to live in cities and otherwise subdue the earth through righteousness, the chief center of their habitations being on the river of Fertion and its tributaries. And it was from these inhabitants that sprang in after years the migrants called Phoenicians, signifying out of the mountains. Nevertheless, these people were Ehuans, but because of the cruelties of the Parsian kings, they fled and lived in the forest. The Lord said to Zarathustra, "Behold, the people who fly from the kings. I have made them kings over goats and over beasts of the field." And from this time forth, the Lycians styled themselves shepherd kings. And Zarathustra, y'all remember who else was called shepherd kings in the Bible? I'll let y'all think about that. And Zarathustra taught them of the Lord that man should have dominion over beasts of the forest, but that no man should hold dominion over his neighbor. Consequently, every man of the Lycians styled himself a king, and every woman styled herself a queen. They still doing it today. Again, the Lord said to Zarathustra, "Go thou, my son, whither I lead thee, and thou shalt find a people sacred to the Great Spirit. So Zarathustra wandered beyond the forest of goats and came to Harawochis, to the south of the mountains of Otala. And after Otala, it has reference 5, and it says Otaka, excuse me, at the bottom. So Zarathustra wandered beyond the forest of goats and came to Harawachi, to the south of the mountains of Otahala, where there were 3 large cities and 12 small ones inhabited by Ehines. And the Lord had been with the Ehines, and the forest told them Zarathustra was come. I'm sorry, I read it wrong. And the Lord had been with the Ehines and foretold them Zarathustra was coming, so that it was proven on both sides. The Lord said to the high priest, "Thou shalt suffer Zarathustra to come within the walls of the city, for he is pure." So Zarathustra went in, and in the time of worship before the altar of God, the Lord appeareth in a great light and commanded the high priest, saying, "Behold, I have brought my son to thee. Him shalt thou anoint as a priest according to the Ehim laws, and thou shalt teach him the rites and ceremonies of the ancients." Accordingly, Zarathustra was made a priest and was otherwise accepted as an Ehim and bestowed under the rod with water and with fire. And he also taught the sacred word and the art of writing and making tablets and of weaving cloth and making clothes from flax. 7 years 7 years Zarathustra remained with the Ehims, fasting and praying and singing and dancing before the Lord. And then the Lord commanded him to return through the forest of goats, the which he did, teaching before the Lystians whithersoever he halted for a rest, and the Lord was with him, working miracles. At the end of another 7 years, the Lord said to Zarathustra, "Behold, the dawn of light is come. Thou shalt therefore bestow thy mother with thy people, and I will lead thee to the city of thy birth." Zarathustra said, "Tell me, O Lord, of the city of my birth." The Lord said, "It is a great city, but it shall fall the Lord said, "It is a great city, but it shall fall before thy hand, for Ehuamazah hath turned his favor away from its kings." In 2 days' journey, Zarathustra came to Oahspe and entered the city, but he brought no provender with him. Now it was a law of Oahspe that all strangers coming into the city should bring provender as a testimony of fidelity to the laws and to the king. And when he came to the inner gate, the keeper asked him for provender, but Zarathustra answered him, saying, "Naked I came into the world, and Ormazd asked me not for provender. Is thy king greater than the creator?" And so remember, Ormazd, if you look at the list I posted yesterday, Ormazd is another name for Jehovah or the Great Spirit, right? So we're realizing now when they get to different places and it tells you at the beginning that this was a name, but they're referring to Jehovah, right? Okay. Not one of the gods who are ruling, but actually the Great Spirit, who we refer to it, most of us refer to as Jah or the Great Spirit. Okay. "Naked I came into the world, and Ormazd asked me not for provender. Is thy king greater than the creator?" The keeper said, "I know not thy words. Shall a servant explain laws?" To which Zarathustra said, "Thou art wise, neither shalt thou suffer for disobedience in letting me pass. The Lord will give thee food." When he had spoken thus, there fell at the feet of the keeper an abundance of fruit, and the keeper feared and stood aside, suffering Zarathustra to pass in. The keeper not only told the people of the miracle, but ran and told the king likewise. This was Asha, who had reigned since the death of Soki, and Asha no sooner heard of the miracle than he imagined the person to be the same who he had seen in infancy. Asha the king sent officers at once to find Zarathustra and bring him before the court. But the Lord, knowing these things, inspired Zarathustra to go on his own account, and he went accordingly before the king, even before the officers returned. The king said, "Who art thou, and for what purpose hast thou come before the king?" Then spake Ahura Mazda, through Zarathustra, saying, "I am Ahura Mazda, God of the Ehuans. He through whom I speak is Zarathustra, whom thou sawest in his mother's arms. We twain are one. I have come before thee, O king, because of two reasons. Thou hast sent for me, and I desire to use thee." The king said, "Speak further, stranger, that I may approve of thy words." "In the time of Soki," said Ahura Mazda, "I made thee king of Oahspe, and from that day to this my Ashars have been with thee, and heard thee oft praying privately for information of the infant thou sawest, for it resteth heavily on thy judgment whether or not man be immortal." Excuse me. "Sit thou with me this night privately, and I will show thee Soki's spirit." And after spirit is reference number 6, and at the bottom it says soul. This alteration occurred several times and are not footnoted again. Verse number 22. Asha said, "Thou wert to smite the city." Asha said, "Thou wert to smite the city, and it would fall. Behold, it standeth. Yet I desire not to stand in my own light." Then Zarathustra spake of his own account, saying, "Fear not, O king, for this is philosophy. As thou wouldest bend a straw, so do the gods will the nations of the earth. The city will fall ere 6 years pass, and thou shalt be reduced to beggary, and yet thou shalt be happier than now." Chapter 7. Where we at? I think because it's Sunday, we might spend this whole hour reading through the book of God's word, and then we'll finish the meditation book. So we'll be here like an hour and a half, maybe, if y'all can hold on. All right. Chapter 7. When night came, the king sat privately with Zarathustra, and Ahura Mazda cast the light on the wall, and the spirit of Soki came and appeared before Asha. Soki said, "Knowest thou who I am?" And Asha said, "Yea, Soki." Soki said, "True, O king, the soul is immortal." And then it disappeared. And Asha said, "It seemeth to be Soki, and yet if it were he would not have called me Asha instead of O king." Then spake Zarathustra, saying, "Call thou for some other spirit?" Asha said, "Suffer then the spirit of my wife to appear." Again the light appeared, and the soul of Asha's wife inhabited it, and he saw her. Asha said, "It is indeed," and then she disappeared. Asha said, "Had it been she had spoken." Zarathustra said, "Call thou for another spirit." Asha called for Chojan, the songster, who looked like no other man under the sun. And Chojan also appeared, and even sang one of the songs about the slaughter of the infants. Asha said, "It was like Chogan, but had it been he had surely mentioned the miracle." Then Zarathustra said, "Call yet for another spirit." And Asha called and appeared. And Asha called, and another appeared, and thus it continued until 20 spirits of the dead had shown themselves and talked with him face to face, and everyone had related things pertinent to themselves. Then spake Zarathustra, saying, "Tomorrow night thou shalt again sit with me." Now on the next night 20 other spirits of the dead appeared and spake face to face with the king, but yet he believed not. Then spake Ahura Mazda through Zarathustra, saying, what will satisfy thee, O man? For I declare unto thee that spirit is not provable by corpor, nor corpor by spirit. There are two things: one groweth by aggregating, and the other groweth by dissemination, of which all light is the highest. As by darkness light is known, and by light darkness is known, similarly diverse are corporal and spirit known. Yahuwah Mazda said, thy generations, O king, have been long bred in unbelief in spirit, and unbelief is so entailed upon thee that evidence is worthless before thee. Who thinkest thou I am? He said, you ain't gonna trick me. He got to prove you. Asha said, Zarathustra. Asha said, Zarathustra. Then Zarathustra asked him, saying, who thinkest thou I am? And Asha said, Zarathustra. To which Yahuwah Mazda said, because thou seest with eyes this corporal body, and heareth with thine ears this corporal voice, so does thy corporal judgment find an answer. But I declare to thee, O king, there is a spiritual judgment as well as a corporal judgment. There is a spiritual man within all men, and it never dieth. We all know that, right? We call it the the horse and its rider. Your spirit being a rider, and a horse being your flesh, or your person and your dog, or your car and your driver, right? We figured that out recently. Hold on. But I declare to thee, O king, there is a spiritual judgment as well as a corporal judgment. There is a spiritual man within all men, and it never dieth. The spiritual man which is within is the only one that can discern spiritual things. It is the only one that can recognize the spirits of the dead. Then Asha said, how shall I prove there not be some element belonging to thee personally that is a mirror to reproduce a semblance of whatever is within thy thoughts? Yahuwah Mazda said, what would profit thee? I'm sorry. Yahuwah Mazda said, what would that profit thee if proven? And what profit if not proven? Hear me then, for this is wisdom. There are millions of souls in heaven that are in the same doubt thou art in, not knowing that they themselves are dead, especially those slain in war and in unbelief of spirit life. The king said, who then sayest thou art? And Mazda said, first there is Ormaz, creator, who is over all and within all, whose person is the whole all. Then there are the unseen worlds in the sky, then this world, and the stars, and the sun, and the moon. After them, mortals and the spirits of the dead. Hear me, O king, because the dead know not the all high heavens, the Ormaz, which is Jah or the Great Spirit, whose name signifieth Master of all light, sendeth his exalted angels down to the earth as masters and teachers, having captains and high captains, that their labor be done orderly. The highest captain is therefore called Yahuwah Mazda, that is, master voice over mortals and spirits for their exaltation. And remember, he's kind of like the God during this time. So, am I going in and out, Shayla? I saw you just posted the page. So every rank under Ormaz or under the Great Spirit or under Yah or the all, like the all person, right? Everybody that is of him, and not the ones who have gone over to the false kingdoms, all the true lords and gods, they will always direct you to the all light. You can tell if you're being led by a false god or a false lord, if they're claiming that they're like, this is the highest right here. Like if they're claiming to be the highest, you know you in trouble, right? You got to get from under their kingdom, because they were all the ones who can talk to, listen, the ones who can be in communication with us here. This is what I was realizing yesterday, because I'm almost certain that we haven't necessarily, well, I can't say that, but here's what I do understand. The ones who are authorized, the ranks who are authorized to talk to us, and some of the voices that we hear, the words that they get do come straight from Yah, right? They'll always point back to him, or they may speak in proxy like they are him, right? But those that are not, they kind of just like lead you away from even they lead you away even from the search of truth. Like, what's all this for? You know what? Ain't nothing. We just need to live, eat, drink, be merry, and die. Right? Then, if you get to that point, you might be being frustrated by a false lord and a false god, because the all light, the great spirit, Yah, he continues to lead us up so that we can grow and we can develop. Oh, thank you, Oahspe College University. He said, Oahspe stops the rank only for ethereal worlds, but there are more higher ranks than that. Yeah, thank you for that. Right, that's why I said what we can hear, what we can see here, those authorized to talk to us while we're here. There's definitely way more ranks and stuff. But we have enough information here with us now, at least from what I've seen in Oahspe so far, what I've read, that'll keep us on the right track for us to continue growing and elevating, so that when we leave this realm, we can continue to grow in the right lane, so we don't get stuck into one of these false lord and these false gods kingdom. When I was reading it yesterday also, remember I saw this when I was reading a book by Robert Monroe. He was talking about certain people when he was having out of body experiences. He was noticing, and it was a couple Christian people that had passed. Whatever you believing in, and according to this, Christianity is one of the kingdoms of the false gods, of which Luamong, we're going to get to him. Luamong is the Lord God of. I may have said his rank right. I may have said it wrong. But anyway, all of that Christianity, the Muslim Islam faith, all of that is coming out of Luamong's kingdom, which Luamong is a false god, right? And so when you die, if you die believing in falsities or false gods or whatever, you're taking your ashars take you to that false god's kingdom, and you're there for a while until that false kingdom is delivered and got back onto the right track. But in Robert Monroe's book, when he was having an out-of-body experience, he was saying that he noticed that when certain Christians died, and there was an interaction with a couple of them, they died like looking for Jesus, right? And so when they would die, their spirits, okay, where's the kingdom of heaven? Where's Jesus' kingdom or whatever? And Robert Monroe, he was able to interact because he was having an out of body experience. So he was like, well, I don't know, but what he said he noticed was everybody who believed in a certain thing, after they died, there are certain places that host like the different religions or whatever belief it was. It it falls, from what I'm understanding now, those religions are a part of this false kingdom in the spiritual realm, and whatever you believe in, you go there. So he said he began to notice that, like Christians, they would be led to this particular place where all the Christians go who believed in this, and those who believed in like Islam, there was another place where it seemed that all of those who had like beliefs about a certain thing, they were congregated there. And he just kind of looked, he didn't go in, but it seemed he was able to listen in on some of the stuff. And from his understanding, from actually being alive and knowing about some of the religions, it seemed like that same type of thing was being taught there or teach there. It was like it was continuing on in a false belief. So like they was there for a period, he said, and then they just kind of disappeared. And he just kind of kept going on through his journey or whatever, was being taught to him. So that's real interesting. Like I said, and as I started reading it through here, I was like, yo, this is crazy. um so he's actually had out of body experiences, where he actually experienced this stuff that we just like reading. Well, I'm gonna say me just reading for the first time, but with my knowledge already of those things and some of the supernatural spiritual things that I've experienced, it's helping me understand a whole lot. Okay. Oahspe, sister, you said it right. The guardian angels take you to the heavenly kingdom you believe in while on earth. Leomong holds a higher bondage because he gave Christ to our world. Yeah, I'd be so glad when we get to this part. I sure hope people tune in for that, right? Especially if you still can't let Jesus go. I'm like, bruh, Listen, I used to be there, but I'm like, I wasn't worshiping Jesus like he was the all. Even when I was in Christianity, I knew something was wrong because of the whole Trinity type thing. And I used to get confused. I'm like, okay, who is we supposed to be worshiping? Is we supposed to be worshiping God, Jesus, or the Holy Spirit? Or is we talking to God, but we can't talk to him unless we're like talking to the Holy Spirit and saying it in Jesus' name? Is that like a password? That used to frustrate me beyond all else. And I was like, something is wrong with this, right? Which I guess it really helped me as I grew, because I'm just like, look, y'all ain't gonna have me out here looking crazy. I need to search into this. I know this is what we didn't believe in, what we was brought up in, but something is not sitting right with my spirit about this, right? And I used to have these thoughts. Me and my even a sister that I do a lot of researching with, we used to have these conversations like, people say that those who believe in Jesus are born in the right faith. But what if we weren't? What if we were really born in the wrong faith and we really don't know it? Like, we used to have these conversations like as teenagers, like, what if we were really wrong? You know? So that kind of add a little bit more fuel to the fire of us searching for truth. We've been on search for truth all our life, for real, so, but it's not to these recent couple years that we found out that we really was living a lie. Like, we were living in the kingdoms of these false lords and gods, right? And my Hebrew brethren and sisterin, y'all still worshiping the same thing. If y'all still there, that's a whole false lord. All that's under the false god Luamon. All right, y'all. Let me finish this chapter. Let me read this again, verse 9. But I declare to thee, O king, there is a spiritual judgment as well as a corporal judgment. There is a spiritual man within all men, and it never dieth. The spiritual man, which is within, is the only one that can discern spiritual things. It is the only one that can recognize the spirits of the dead. Then Asha said, how shall I prove there be not some element belonging to thee personally, that it is a mirror to reproduce a semblance of whatsoever is within thy thoughts? Ahura Mazda said, what would that profit thee if proven? And what profit if not proven? Hear me then, for this is wisdom. There are millions of souls in heaven that are in the same doubt thou art in, not knowing that they themselves are dead, especially those slain in war and in unbelief of spirit life. The king said, who then saith thou art? Ehua Mazda said, first there is Ormazd, creator, who is over all and within all, whose person is the whole all. Then there are the unseen worlds in the sky, then this world and the stars and sun and moon, after them mortals and the spirits of the dead. Hear me, O king, because the dead know not the all high heavens, the Ormazd, whose name signifieth Master of all light, sendeth his exalted angels down to the earth as masters and teachers, having captains and high captains, that their labor be done orderly. The highest captain is therefore called Ehua Mazda, that is, master voice over mortals and spirits for their exaltation. Know then, O king, excuse me, know then, O king, I who speak have thee and thy city and thy country within my keeping. I am come to stay man's bloody hand. And through Zarathustra will I reveal the laws of Ormazd, and they shall stand above all other laws. Because thou art the most skilled of men, I made thee king. Because thou hast seen that man must have an all highest law, I have come to thee. Yea, from thy youth up, and during thy long life, I have spoken to thy soul, saying, Asha, find thou the all highest. Asha, thou shalt have a strange labor before thou diest. Asha, thou that hast attained to the measurement of the stars shall find a power behind the stars. The king said, enough, enough, O stranger. Thou turnest my head with wonders. I scarce know if I am living or dead because of the mastery of thy wisdom. Excuse me. I'll make this for water. Okay. Alas, my kindred are dead, my friends are fools. I have none to tell these wonders to. All thy days shalt thou live in my palace, and whomsoever demandeth for a wife shall be granted unto thee. And whomsoever thou demandest for a wife shall be granted unto thee. Ihuamaza said, Till I come again to thee, O king, keep thy own counsel. For the present, I must return to the forest. Give me therefore of thy choicest ink and brushes and writing cloth, and send thou 2 servants with me. Asha said, Suffer me to be one of thy servants, and I will abdicate my throne. Yahuwah said, I shall need thee where thou art. Thus ended the interview with the king. The next day, Zarathustra returned to the forest to write the Zarathustrian laws. Who we at? Oh, we had an hour. Hold on. Oh, what the heck? It's really short. Let's read this next chapter. It's really short. It's literally like 14 verses. Chapter 8. These then, excuse me, these then are the Zarathustrian laws, the Ehua Mazdian laws, which being interpreted into the English language should be described as God's word transcribed from the libraries of heaven by the will of Jehovah. That is to say, Zarathustra said, Interpret to me, O Holy One. Yahuwah said, O Pure One, all pure, hear thou. I will interpret, write thou. So Zarathustra, if we was just sitting, if we just walked upon him, it would, excuse me, it would seem like he's sitting there talking to himself, but he can literally hear the spirit talking to him. So he's like, okay, you tell me what to write. I'm going to go ahead and write it, my G. Go ahead. What I need to write. So remember, Ahura Mazda is speaking through Zarathustra. And Zarathustra is still there. Just kind of like how we see prophecy happening. If somebody if somebody is truly prophesying or the Spirit of Yah is truly speaking through them, they're still there. They're still functioning. They just kind of hand over the microphone real quick and let the Spirit speak. It's the same thing that's happening here. That is to say, Zarathustra said, Interpret to me, O Holy One. Ahura Mazda said, O Pure One, all pure, hear thou. I will interpret, thou write. Zarathustra wrote, Then spake Ahura Mazda to Zarathustra, the all pure. First, Ormazd was, and he created all created things. He was all, he is all. He was all round and put forth hands and wings. Then began the beginning of things seen and of things unseen. The first, best, highest place he created was the all possibility. And the second best, highest place he created was the all good. With him are all things possible. With him are all things good. Ormazd then created the first best of places, the longest enduring, the Ariana Vaja, which is Ethera, the highest of good creation. The third best created places created Ormazd, which was Hareti, a high heavenly good place, a home of Fragapati, a creator, son of the heavenly Ariana Vaja, a rescuer of men and spirits from Anra Manius, the evil of blood and bone. The fourth best created places created Ormazd, the creator, which was Gao, the dwelling place of Sugda, of heavenly shape and straight limbs and arms, and ample chest full of music. Out of Moru, of the regions of Hareti, came the voice, created by the Creator or Mazd, came to Ehua Mazda, and now cometh to thee, Zarathustra, thou all pure. Fifth best created, fifth best place created the Creator, the the Bakdi, the Bak Hadi, excuse me, Bakhdi. I'm gonna say Bhakti with lofty standards, And after bhakti is reference letter C, which is on page 215. Created the, is this right? Yeah, that's the right place. Okay. The bhakti is the plan of salvation, the word that leads to everlasting life, 1882 edition. Verse 13. Then came Anra-Manius, the black doubt, the Sagwan sowing seeds. After that, the Creator created T-Sugi, the reason of man, and turned his eyes inward that he could see his own soul. And that is actually the end of that chapter. Yeah. One more, just one more, because it seemed like it's a weird place to stop. Chapter 9. Came to Zarathustra, the all-pure, the voice of Yahuwah Mazda, by the host of Hareti. Hear me, O Zarathustra, I am Yahuwah Mazda. Hear thou of thy Creator, who created all things. These are the chief, first best places created. First the earth, and the air, and the water, and the all-living that are on them and in them. Out of darkness, void, waste, and nothing was, as seeming nothing, and shaped he, the Creator, or Mazd, the shape of things, the living that live, the living that are dead, the first of all that breathe, created the Creator, or Mazd. Verse 5. With legs or wings, or hair or feathers, or naked to crawl or walk or fly, created the Creator, or Mazd, the all living. To all to live a life, a right to live and die. Out of the life of Ormaz gave he them life and death. Then asked Zarathustra, the all pure, inquiring of Yahuwah Mazda, saying, to whom else hast thou these things spoken? Yahuwah Mazda said, since a million, before a million, to more than 1,000,000,000. Then asked Zarathustra, tell me of one to whom thou hast revealed. And then answered Yahuwah Mazda, to Vivanho, the first of men who had words, the first of women who had words. In the first best created days of pure men and pure women came I revealed. Then Zarathustra, the all pure, said, to be all pure, to be all good, to be all wise, to be all holy, to do all good works. What are these? Yahuwah Mazda said, these are to hear my voice, O Zarathustra. Then Zarathustra said, to be all bad, to be all foolish, to be all evil thinking, to do evil works. What are these? Yahuwah Mazda said, these are not to hear my voice. These are Anramanius, O Zarathustra. Then Zarathustra inquired, saying, is not the, then it has a straight line like something is missing. Is not the not to hear thy voice a person? Is the line to hear the voice? I'm sorry. Is the line to hear thy voice a person? Yahuwah Mazda said to Zarathustra, the all pure, and Rameus was a person, but he is dead. Vivanho is a person, and he liveth to the all, and he liveth to all the holy, and to all the good, and to all the wise, but to the all evil, to the all bad, to the all foolish, and Rameus is not dead. Excuse me, I gotta clear my voice. Sorry. Okay. Verse 13. Then inquired Zarathustra, the all pure, whence came all good? Whence came all evil? Who is all good? Who is all evil? Then answered Yahuwah Mazda to Zarathustra, saying, thou perceivest now all evil must have a name, all good must have a name. Without names, no man could talk. Behold, I will write for thee, O Zarathustra, thou all pure. The mark I make first, thou shalt call the all good, the creator, the master, the light. Here then have I made a circle and a cross and a leaf. And after leaf, it's reference letter D, which we know that is this symbol on the front of the Oahspe, the circle, the cross, and the leaf. And that said that was the sign of Jehovah. So we look back here at reference letter D. Then it says, for these characters with explanations, see Book of Safa, plate 63, Samoan and chapter Samoan, verse 8 and 9, 1882 edition. And I think we read that already. Let's look at plate 63 real quick. But I think plate 63 is those letters, if I remember. 522. Yep, that's this. This plate right here. That's on page 522. And then chapter Samoan, verse 8 and 9. It's kind of Samoan. Let's read it real quick. Page 521. It was right there. I definitely think we read this. Verse 8 and verse 9. Yeah, this is the chapter Samoan. Okay, interpretation. Okay, verse 8 and 9. Ioe, the unseen power, creator, and it has panic in parentheses. Before man could comprehend the all spirit, he was taught the wind, the all unseen, and to call it Ioe, the emblem of boundless and of life. Ioe, synonymous with EOE, E-O-IH, the creator, the person who moveth the wind, the all soul, the all self, the second self, more subtle than the wind. It is the circumference of all. It extendeth from left to right and from below upward. The motions of the hand and arm in oratory, the hand and arm to speak his name. Oh, the hand and arm to speak his name. The sign of Jehovah is the hand and arm to speak his name. That's cool. The hand and arm to speak his name. It is the secret sign. It holdeth the emblem of life, and in parentheses it has panic and gal. Egoquin or Algonquin, Jeoes, J-E-O-E-S, and in parentheses it has chine, then it has Jehovah, and in parentheses after Jehovah is Phanis, then Jehovah spelled a different way, Jehova, and in parentheses is Ibra, then Giozi, and in parentheses after Giozi is Haut, and then Zio, and after Zio in parentheses is Vedi, the soul of all. As the emblem is the living will, I swear by it. Let my accusers say, I have not the holy gifts. They shall bind me on the will. The great spirit will release me. Let the will of my name be by the road. Oh my gosh, I was looking for this yesterday. Yo, let me finish this. Yes, babe.
Have you seen the iPad?
Yes, I have.
Where is it?
Don't mess with it. Listen, the great, go on over there, son. The great spirit will release. No.
I haven't gone on it in a long time.
The great, hey, I'm about to kick you out. I said no. They shall, remember yesterday, it was talking about the wheel. It could have been yesterday, day before yesterday, and it was talking about the wheel. And they said, set it up, and that those who pass by on the road, if they spin it, You know, by spinning it is a representation, if I remember correctly, a representation of remembering the great spirit, and he is the creator of all and that heal these bodies. And remember, I did it. I'm like, I need to spin. Where is this wheel? What is this wheel? I need to spin this wheel, make sure my body is healed completely. And I just kind of did the whole wheel spinning thing with my arm. I was looking for this. Listen. The sound of all, as the emblem is the living will, I swear by it. Let my accusers say that I have not the holy gifts. They shall bind me on the will. The great spirit will release me. Let the will of my name be by the roadside, that he who passeth may turn it in remembrance of the I am. This shall be a prayer from the unlearned, and I will hear them all. Zarathustra. Oh, that's so beautiful. The wheel. Okay. I fold this page. Okay, so that's that reference, y'all. We pause. Back to that reference D. Okay. Page 164, verse 14. And it's only 20 verses, and we'll pause right here for real, after verse 20. Who we at? Hour 16, yeah, and then we'll read the rest of the meditation book if y'all got time to stay. All right, verse 14. Yahuwah Mazda said to Zarathustra, the all pure, whoever looketh upon this mark, whoever seeth it, seeth the name of all names, the Creator. Whoever maketh this mark, writeth the name of the all good. Whoever pronounceth this mark, pronounced the name of Ormaz, the all master. Then made Yahuwah Mazda a circle and painted 4 dark corners in it and called it Anra Mayas, the Udruk, Uhdruk, the Udruk, the opposition to all truth and all light and all good. And Yahuwah Mazda explained to Zarathustra. Okay, yeah. Excuse me. I can see the 4 dark corners. Okay. Okay, so see this? So he drew the circle with 4 dark corners in it, right? So to make the 4 dark corners, I guess you would draw the cross through it. So the darkness inside of the circle will represent the opposition to the great spirit. Okay, I'll read that again. Verse 14. Yahuwah Mazda said to Zarathustra, the all pure, whoever looketh upon this mark, whoever seeth it, seeth the name of all names, the Creator. Whoever maketh this mark, writeth the name of the all good. Whoever pronounceth this mark, pronounceth the name of Ormaz, the all master. Then made Yahuwah Mazda a circle and painted 4 dark corners in it and called it Anramanias, the Udruk, the opposition to all truth and all light and all good. And Yahuwah Mazda explained to Zarathustra, and behold, there stood within the circle of evil the name of all good, the cross, and it was light, and the corners were black. Yahuwah Mazda called this mark fate. It's actually spelled fate, or it could be fate, but I think it's fate, Fate. Yahuwah Mazda called this mark fate, explaining to Zarathustra, the all pure, saying, these 3 marks embrace all the created creation. Hence, the name of the 3rd one is fate, from which there is no escape nor separation forever. Zarathustra inquired of Yahuwah Mazda, saying, is evil evil? Is good good? Yahuwah Mazda said, evil is evil to man, but evil is not evil to Ormazd. Good is good to man, but good is not good to Ormazd. Only 2 conditions are before Ormazd, not evil nor good, but ripe and unripe. To Ormazd, that which man calleth evil is unripe. To Ormazd, that which man calleth good is ripe. Yahuwah Mazda went on explaining, saying, for sake of understanding, O Zarathustra, for sake of not confounding, thou shalt call evil, evil, and good, good. Hear me then, my son. Without green fruit, none could be ripe. Without evil, none could be good. Well, that makes a whole lot of sense. Because I got some unripe bananas, but they can't be right until they go through the unripe process. Okay, I get it. Without green fruit, none could be ripe. Without evil, none could be good. So Ormas created all creation and called it good, but lo and behold, there was nothing to do. All things moved not as if dead, all things were as nothing. Then Ormas blew his breath outward, and every created thing went into motion. And those at the front were called all good, and those at the rear were called all evil. Thus created the Creator the good creation and the evil creation, the Yahuwah Mazda and the Anra Mayas. That was pretty good. Okay, y'all, we're going to pause right here at the end of chapter 9. Excuse me. So we'll pick this back up tomorrow with chapter 10. Okay, so if y'all can stay a little while, let's go ahead and finish up this meditation book, right? And so after we finish this, we're going to pause for a couple of days before we start our next one that we read after the main reading. We're just going to pause for a couple of days. I got to revisit a couple of things. All right, y'all. So if I have, like, I set some books up in our lineup. All of them I haven't told you, but some of them I think now I need to pull, right? Because I want to make sure we're staying on path to truth. And if we get understanding for certain things as we go before we get there, it may seem unnecessary to read it, or I don't know. I just got to revisit a couple things. Okay. Antoinette, shalom. Okay, y'all. Tiffany, I just saw your comment that's definitely from earlier. Reduce to beggary and be happier than now. That's profound. That absolutely was profound, right? Because he didn't want to be king. He's like, take me with you. He said, nope, stay here for now. I need you here. Okay. All right, y'all. Page 187. Where we at? An hour, 23 minutes. Thank you, Ali. All right. Through the practices of mystical spirituality, you will encounter many forms of experience. You will discover a growing peace within you, as well as increased willpower and moral strength. In the beginning, however, you may encounter pain and negative feelings. Some people blame their spiritual practices for causing them to become aware of their inner negativity and then quit their practices. This is an immature and ignorant attitude. Kind of like when we waking up realizing that what we thought was the truth is not the truth. And then we kind of go on and it seemed like we run into a brick wall and we get frustrated. It's like, man, I wish I never even known any of this stuff, right? That's an immature way of thinking, right? First the evil, then the good. All the evil has to be revealed to you. Like you got to go through this process. You just got to go through it. Even when children are learning how to walk, they fall, they bump their head, they bruise their knees. You're learning how to ride a bike, you fall, you bump. Hopefully you don't bump your head, but you fall, you bruise your knees, you skin it up, hands, whatever. If your parents don't don you with all the safety stuff, right? But that's just how it is. And it's like that in everything. You must go through a learning curve. Nobody comes out perfect, right? Or at least when you're taking on new endeavors, nobody comes out perfect. And anybody tell you that it's perfect, you shouldn't run into anything, they're liars. Or they're living in total delusion. Okay. Through the practices of mystical spirituality, you will encounter many forms of experiences. You will discover a growing peace within you, as well as increased willpower and moral strength. In the beginning, however, you may encounter pain and negative feelings. Some people blame their spiritual practices for causing them to become aware of their inner negativity and then quit their practices. This is an immature and ignorant attitude. As you advance in your spiritual practices, you will encounter feelings and sometimes memories and thoughts which seem to arise out of nowhere. These thoughts cause you pain because they force you to face the untoward feelings you were not aware of that were buried or dormant in your unconsciousness. Spiritual practice is not about escaping the world or your problems. It is the most effective way to face and transcend them. If you persevere with faith, you will discover that you are gradually cleansing your heart. You are purging the negativity away, but this process occurs in its own time and it depends on the individual because all people have had different experiences throughout many lifetimes. Okay, so I kind of don't agree with the many lifetime thing now, right? Based on what we're learning and what we're really looking at, reincarnation comes from, I'm gonna read it though, but I'm gonna point it out. That's why I say we got to revisit some stuff that's in the lineup. Okay. Therefore, your experiences in spiritual practice as well as in meditation will be unique. I would say your information and everything that you've learned while you've been alive this time, right? We don't get to live two lives, as I'm understanding. We don't reincarnate, y'all. That I mean, if we just look at life in general and how nature is, we could plainly and clearly see that, but for some reason we kind of get off with the way people know how to put words together and can explain some things. We're like, wow, yeah, yeah. But if we're looking at it with eyes completely open and sober, common sense would tell us we can't do that. So therefore, your experiences in spiritual practice as well as in meditation will be unique. As you progress in meditation, you will dive deeper and deeper within yourself. You may have experiences with deities, and these will appear to you in accordance with the nature of your religious faith. You may see lights, you may experience sensations, and you may experience sensations you never thought possible. The possibilities are infinite. The bodiless state is an important experience to achieve. It is important because it will, in no uncertain terms, give you a direct experience of your own essence beyond the physical body. This means that you are going beyond ordinary consciousness, and this going beyond will engender a new feeling of expansion and inner awareness in a way that no book or instruction can. The spiritual experiences, such as the bodiless state, will allow you to seriously begin to understand that your physical self is only a part of your true self or your spirit man, right? The real you on the inside of you that's, you know, hidden by your flesh. You will begin to experience the truth about which the sages and saints from time immemorial have spoken, that the body is evanescent while the soul is immortal and eternal. And clearly the Oahspe, we was talking about this today, right? The flesh is not, but the soul is immortal. It's eternal. Thus you will begin to discover your own immortality. However, there is one obstacle which stands in your way: fear. If you progress in your spiritual practices, you will encounter all manner of situations and experiences which, in the beginning, may frighten you. We all been there, right? Okay. The bodiless state is one of these. This is the fear of letting go of the body and the familiar sensations of the body. It is due to it is due to the conditioning of your mind in which you have learned to identify yourself with your body as your true self. The body identification is the feeling that this is you and that when the body is no more, that you are no more. Of course, this is an erroneous understanding which you begin to lose when you experience the bodiless state. The way to overcome this fear is to maintain sustained practice and to move forward gradually. You should not rush into spiritual practices or various exercises without proper guidance and counseling. You should gradually allow yourself to integrate these experiences into your personality. Eventually, you will come to enjoy the spiritual experiences, so much so that you may expect and even look forward to them. However, you should not get caught up in these just because they are just hold on. However, you should not get caught up in these because they are just another form of experience, and all experiences are relative. Your true goal is to discover what lies beyond all experience while at the same time encompassing all experiences. This is the absolute transcendental supreme self, which is your innermost reality. Therefore, to become witness, Amun, hold on. Therefore, become the witness, Amun, and behold the majesty of the self within as well as without. A mediator and practitioner of the yogic lifestyle explained how the meditative lifestyle changed their ability to cope with the challenges of life. Quote, before I began to practice meditation, I would become angry very easily. I would sometimes start arguments with my family members, and looking back on it, the reasons were because I could not get what I wanted. I expected them to act in certain ways, and when they did not, I would become irritated. Now that I have practiced yoga and my meditation, now that I have practiced yoga and meditation for some time, I have learned not to expect anything of others, but to look at my own reasons for wanting the things I want. I realized I was acting as a hypocrite and doing things because I wanted something from others. I have discovered that the things which I thought were so important are not more important than peace and harmony. The inner peace I have discovered is more important to me than trying to get others to act the way I want. I make an effort to work with others and I allow them space. But when things don't go my way, I can still remain at peace. I would not trade this peace for all the money in the world. End quote. That was good. A mediator and a practitioner of the yogic lifestyle describe meditation experiences. Quote, these are okay, so these is a few quotes from a few different people. Okay. And this is about done. Okay. Quote, I had been practicing formal meditation and reducing the tension and stress in my life for a year. And one day during meditation, I experienced something wondrous, though frightening at first. After an hour or so, I lost awareness of the surroundings and felt I was lifting out of my body. The sensation was like no other. I felt as if I was being ripped away from my body. I suddenly realized that I was still me, but not the body or the personality that was there meditating. It was just as the teachings describe, like the dream world, but this had an important difference. I was aware of this new world and I was not caught up in it or lost in it like a dream. At first, it was frightening. The feeling of dropping away from my physical body, which I was so accustomed to. Remember that video that I did where I literally freaked out the whole video? Like we didn't read anything that day. If you go back, that was when like I had mentally assented to, yes, we're spirits who live in physical bodies. But it wasn't until that experience a few months back where I realized, yo, we are spirits who are covered by flesh. Like we live, like this is a vehicle. Like that was the day where it really became alive. Like I no longer mentally assented. I know that the real me is just driving this body, is controlling this body, or at least trying to control this body. And I got to get this under control. Y'all seen the movie Avatar? Not the cartoon one, but the actual movie. Not, I'm sorry. Did I say that right? Avatar? Is Avatar the one with the blue people? Babe, huh? Yeah, Avatar. You know how they had the Avatar body in the little machine with the water. So the guy who was in the wheelchair, he's kind of like the spirit or the real person inside of that Avatar body, right? Just like our bodies are in the womb being cooked up in our mom's womb, right? It's just there. It's alive. It's completely authentic. It can do things, but it don't come to life for real until the spirit, the real you, jump into that vehicle and start driving it when we get here. Take that first breath of real air. I mean, granted, I'm looking at things completely different now, right? This same process is happening. We done created a body, a vehicle for the next spirit to enter into this world. And when it's time for you to come, the birth pains begin to happen, right? Yo, I'm telling you, this flesh, us, who you see, that is not the real me. This is just a vehicle that my spirit drives. Listen, If y'all have not had this experience yet, and I know it's a few people up here that we email back and forth, and y'all tell me about some of the wild stuff that be happening to y'all. It's like, wait a minute, it was funny. Is Jen here? Hold on. I love her. Did Jen come in? I think I said hey to her earlier. Hold on. Jen. No, she ain't come in yet. She ain't come in yet. She in California. Okay, look. So she had me not cracking up, but it was funny because I knew exactly what she was talking about. She said that when some of this stuff started happening to her, she started freaking out because a lot of times we aren't really raised, really taught spiritual things, how they put it back. I just told your brother no. Put it back. Not really taught what things are. So when we experience them spiritually, we get all weirded out and freaked out, and we think the devil messing with us or whatever, right? And she said, Pam, I kid you not. She said, I thought I was being attacked. And she said, all this time I done stopped using the name Jesus. I'm just, just talking to Yah, the great spirit, the creator. She said, she said, and I feel so bad. She said, because I immediately went back into my church program and was like, Jesus, I'm sorry. And I repent. And I didn't mean to laugh, but I was like, I feel you. I feel you, Jen. I know. I say you got to keep going. I say because that's what happens a lot of time because we're raised in that, and the first thing that happens to us spiritually for real, we think, oh my God, I'm being punished because I done stepped out of line. Like we're in complete fear, right? But what I've noticed is, and I really understood this just a little bit more as I was understanding about the different false gods, kingdoms and stuff, and I had a few people ask me this. And when they asked me, I knew exactly what they was talking about because me and my sister experienced it as we began to kind of like put away Christianity and even like the Hebrew camps and all that stuff that we was learning on the Hebrew roots, because it's really Christianity refashioned with Hebrew names and stuff, right? And you just change how you dress and all that. What we began to realize, how when you call in, let me hold my spot. We're gonna finish reading this because it's just like a couple more experiences and that they're sharing, and then the book is literally done. But you know how when you so you're in church, and if for people who really been in church a lot and you constantly called on the name of Jesus, you will like feel this presence. So you say it's like the presence of the Lord is here. You feel the Holy Spirit overshadowing you, all that stuff. You get all those little feels and stuff. But what happens is when you put away that name and you stop calling on the name of Jesus when you're really in search for the truth, because sometimes just think about it. Babies, they need to be coddled. They need to feel something. They need to be held in touch. But as you get a little bit older, mom and dad expect you to be not that we're going to not hug you anything anymore, but you don't really need to be all up under us all the time, right? You don't need to be hanging. I don't need to hold your hand everywhere. Matter of fact, as they begin to grow, they don't want you like, give my hand back. Don't kiss mom. Don't kiss me here. I'm in school or whatever. No, don't do that. I can kiss you and hug you at home, or hurry up, get out of here. It's a healthy thing. They should be that way because they shouldn't be like latching on you. That same thing happens as you begin to put away all the teachings and stuff from the false God's kingdom. And a couple people asked me, they said, hold on. And it's like they said, and it was quite a few people. And I talked to a couple people on the phone, and it was like, I feel like, what she say? She said, I don't feel Jesus anymore. She said, like, how you praying and you like feel that. She said, that's like going away. She said, something wrong. She said, because I was so used to that. I was like, I completely understand what you're talking about. It's not that Jesus has left you. You kind of left him, but I was trying to explain it in a way where they could understand. But it's like when you come away from false teachings and lies and stuff, and I know that probably sound like blasphemy that come from out of church because we grew up loving Jesus, right? And it sounds like, that sounds like blasphemy, but it's really not. What happens is when you begin to come from under that, everything that came with that kingdom also goes away. So you ain't gonna get that coddling from that false god and all those things, because you should have never been a part of that anyway. But you will begin to grow and see the light of the great spirit and creator, and you will be able to recognize truth. A lot of times constantly being caught, come here, baby. You can be, your emotions can be played with. I realize If you're constantly being called and you always need to feel something, people can take advantage of you and you don't think straight, which is why all of that needs to be stripped away from you. You need to be like naked and bare, and not like naked, but you need to be stripped of all of that so you can think. Think, Leroy, think, right? You need to be able to see clearly so you can decipher between what's good and what's evil, or what's right or what's unright, right? So a lot of different people, and it's like, at first when a bunch of people started, it sounds like, wait a minute, Father, wait a minute, first of all, let me make sure, like, they was making me double check my own self. Father, am I leading people straight? Like, hold on, because I know what they talking about. I hadn't felt that too. So just help me, because I ain't trying to lead people straight. I believe we're doing what's right. We're like searching for you, right? And as I understand it, we need to put that away so we can't be toyed with. Our emotions can't be played with, so we can think clearly, so we can hear clearly, right? So when they was coming to me, like, I'm like, Father, wait a minute, hold on. Multiple people is saying this. Have I bought something on them? Am I causing this stuff to happen? And in a way, yes, because I'm bringing you truth. And those that began to experience the truth. Or just like this said here, in the beginning, however, you may encounter pain and negative feelings, and some people blame their spiritual practices for causing them to become aware of their inner negativity and then quit their practices. Like, some people, they'll begin to wake up, and then it's like all these things start happening. It seems like when you wake up from the lie or the delusion of Christianity or whatever religion that you come from, it seems like things go bad, so to speak, right? And it's like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? And we immediately think it's because I done walked away from my Savior, right? And they done scared you so friggin' bad. Like, if you deny me, you deny the Savior, you don't get salvation, you go straight to hell, right? And so all those fears kick back in. It's like, oh my God, now I'm pissed with you because you done told me this stuff to wake me up, but I can't unsee what I done saw. Lord, forget it all. I ain't going to church. I ain't doing nothing. I'm just going to live my life. I'm going to work. I'm going to eat. I'm going to be married, and I'm going to die, right? That's an immature way of thinking, right? This must happen in order to get all of the bad stuff out. You have to become aware of it. Otherwise, you'll keep being deluded. So you have to become aware of what was deluding you, right? Okay, so let's go back here. Okay. Let me read his whole thing again. A meditator and a practitioner of the yogic lifestyle describe meditation experiences. Quote, I had been practicing formal meditation and reducing the tension and stress in my life for a year. And one day during meditation, I experienced something wondrous, though frightening at first. After an hour or so, I lost awareness of the surroundings and felt that I was lifting out of my body. The sensation was like no other. Excuse me. I felt as if I was being ripped away from my body. I suddenly realized that I was still me, but not the body or personality that was there meditating. It was just as the teachings described, like the dream world, but this had an important difference. I was aware of this new world and I was not caught up in it or lost in it like a dream. At first, it was frightening. The feelings of dropping away from the physical body, which I was so at first, it was frightening. The feeling of dropping away from my physical body, which I was so accustomed to. After a short time, I found myself in my body again, and I felt as if a brand new world had opened up for me. Looking back, I realize now that over the past several years, a similar feeling had been happening when I was asleep. The difference is that when this feeling would come over me, I would wake up immediately out of fear. Me too. Like, if I find myself going out about it, nope, because I'm scared up until this point. First of all, I don't know if this should be happening. Why is this happening? Is this Satan trying to pull my body, my spirit out of my body to take me to hell? Like, seriously, you got to get through all these fears and stuff, right? The difference is that when this feeling would come over me, I would wake up immediately out of fear. My yoga counselor told me that this was my soul, which had been trying to push me toward expansion in consciousness and spiritual enlightenment. Now that I have understood Now that I have understood what is going on and have allowed the feelings to come whenever it is ready, the transition is natural from one state of consciousness to another. And I have even come to enjoy the experience deeply as I discover more about who I am. In a strange way, the bodiless state feels more natural and comfortable than the regular state, doesn't it? You feel so much more alive, like this is where I'm supposed to be. The regular state of everyday awareness seems almost alien to my true being. That is the best way that I can explain it in words. Okay. Now, here's another one. A meditator and practitioner of the yogic lifestyle described the following meditation experiences. Quote, one day as I practiced excuse me, one day as I practiced meditation, I experienced something I can barely describe. I transcended normal body consciousness as I had done several times before, but this time had a fantastic experience. I was in what I believe was the astral plane, and I was aware of myself in my astral body, and I could see other beings carrying on various activities. In an instant, I could feel a searing sensation in my head, and I gave into it. I did not fight it. Then I felt myself falling to the ground of this astral world. I could hear the loudest sound I had ever heard, a bright light consuming all, and then power beyond imagining. I felt a most powerful vibration coursing through me like a lightning strike, and then I was that supreme power. I then began to dissolve into that essence and later found myself back in my physical body. Who am I? I know now that I am more than this mortal self. I am transcendental. Strangely, the more I experience this all encompassing energy, the more peaceful I feel and the more I feel connected to all things. End quote. And so here's another one. I think this one is pretty long. Okay. The next one. A mediator and practitioner of the yogic lifestyle explained the mystical experience in the following manner. Quote, I had been practicing yoga and meditation for some time. One day I was reading as I usually do before bedtime, and all of a sudden, in a split second, I was transported into a transcendental form of awareness. I knew that there is only one consciousness that exists, mine. I discovered that all that exists depends on my consciousness. As I looked at the ceiling of the room, I knew it was my creation, some form of projection which emanated from me. I knew that my consciousness is the same one that underlies and supports all other human beings. My soul is the same as the soul of every other human being. All at once, I thought of my spouse, and suddenly I knew that our consciousness, not our personalities, are one. I knew that this consciousness is distinct from the ego personality of others, that it is their true inner self, their soul, of which even they are unaware, and that my soul is one with every other soul. Immortality, I felt at once immortal, infinite, boundless. These realizations came, and the whole experience lasted only a few seconds. The actual experience of oneness seemed to occur in the first instant, and then afterward, my mind made sense of the meanings. For weeks afterward, I felt a new feeling of kinship with others. I could somehow see myself in the place of others since I knew our consciousness is one. I understand this experience as a brief encounter of cosmic consciousness, a mystical experience. And I can kind of relate to this because now that I understand like who we really are, you know how sometimes you get attitudes toward people and just different things, like you be ready to go at their head. Like, even though I wasn't like a big person that fight a lot, and I'm like a real forgiving person, I'm really easygoing. Even like my outlook on different people who do other people wrong is not so like cutthroat now. Like, even like say if somebody did something to me, or instance, without saying any names, okay, so there's a situation that I'm privy to even right now, as of today, to where it's a married couple, right? And one of the parties in the marriage couple is one of my family members, right? But I've over time I've grown to love the family member's spouse, right? And I don't want to see harm come to either party, right? Even though it seems from our perspective, it seems like the other party has been, both parties have played their part in things, but it seems like one party, what's that, babe? But it seems like one party, it seems a little more overbearing, right? But up until recently, my feelings may have kind of been skewed a little bit. But even now, as I understand how y'all created us and how we are truly all really brothers and sisters, I have nothing but love. And I would like to see the situation worked out where both parties come out on top and not one is completely cast off to the wind. Because if we cast one party off to the wind, it's like, I think about it as it teaches us through the Oahspe, right? Think about kings, the false kings, right? When the false kings, when their kingdoms are uprooted by Jehovah, the Great Spirit, what happens? Everybody that they've led astray, everybody that they've hurt during the period of their reign, they have to go back and fix it. They have to make it right. They can't move on till the lowest person in their kingdom that was in their kingdom during their rule comes up to the same level that there are. There can't be any animosity, hard feeling, any of that stuff. All of that has to be corrected. So now, looking at the different situations, and not just that family member, but even like in my own household, with the relationship between me and my husband, or with me and my children, there's people that I interact with. It's like when I look at them now and I'm like, you are really a part of me. You like, we are really connected. Like, I don't want to see any harm coming to you. There's a way that we can figure this out without one person getting the upper hand over the other, so to speak. There's a way that we can work this out when truly, like I'm really understanding what true brotherly love really is as the days go on, especially in these most recent days, right? It's amazing, y'all. It really is. Yes, son. Yeah. Hey, nephew. All right, give me a second. I'm almost done. Okay. All right, let me go back to their thing. It says, my soul is the same as the soul of every other human being. All at once, I thought of my spouse, and suddenly I knew that our consciousness, not our personalities, are one. I knew that this consciousness is distinct from the ego personality of others. That is their true inner self, their soul, of which even they are unaware. That my, and, hold on, let me read the whole sentence over. All at once, I thought of my spouse, and suddenly I knew that our consciousness, not our personalities, are one. I knew that this consciousness is distinct from the ego personality of others, that is, their true inner self, their soul, of which even they are unaware, and that my soul is one with every other soul. Immortality. I felt at once immortal, infinite, boundless. These realizations came, and the whole experience lasted only a few seconds. The actual experience of oneness seemed to occur in the first instant, and then afterward, my mind made sense of the meanings. For weeks afterward, I felt a new feeling of kinship with others. I could somehow see myself in the place of others since I knew our consciousness is one. I understand this experience as a brief encounter of cosmic consciousness, a mystical experience. The experience was overwhelming beyond anything else I have known before or since, and every aspect of my life has been transformed, even though the memory has faded somewhat since that time. Somehow the memory has given way to a divine feeling or awareness which I cannot put into words. It is as if the divine presence itself, the supreme being, the self, is with me at all times. More and more, it is as if my more and more, it is as if I myself am that same self, the innermost reality which I experience. It is like losing myself and finding my greater self. I am joyous, peaceful, and more loving to my family, friends, and even to strangers, though in a detached manner. I have discovered a deeper feeling for them, excuse me, than that which can be expressed in any physical way. Also, remember when we was reading through My Big Toe towards the end, remember he said that after he had been meditating a while and really like he was really becoming more spiritual and understanding more about the spiritual body, and that he was real, we are really spirits and all of us are connected. Remember, he said he was sitting at work one day and he just happened to look out the window and he saw like strings. There were like these transparent strings that connected to like everything. At first he thought, he was like, okay, what am I seeing? And he's like rubbed his eyes and stuff, but there were strings that it all like came from the sky and it was connected to like the trees, the ground, the people, the animals. He saw one connected to himself and he said he couldn't shake this. He thought, am I dreaming? He had to like pinch himself. Wait a minute, am I having an out of body experience? And it wouldn't go away. He could like see it, but he had been meditating a lot and just really taking time and just getting closer with the creator, right? And understanding what life truly is and what we really are. And he realized that with that, as the days went on, because it just kind of kept going on, and he said he can control it, what he's saying, but it was like he was able to see the spiritual realm. And so now he can kind of control it, where now he understands it. So he understands that what he was seeing was the connection that we all have to everything together, being connected to the great creator. I was like, that was freaking amazing, right? And he said he just looks at life and deal with people in a different way because we all are literally connected. Like if I hurt you, I am in turn really hurting myself. It was beautiful the way he explained it. But I just remembered that when as I was reading this. I am joyous, peaceful, and more loving to my family, friends, and even to strangers, though in a detached manner. I have discovered a deeper feeling for them than that which can be expressed in any physical way. I am often asked if I am some kind of minister or member of a religious order because of my calmness and patience seem to make me stand out when ordinary people have become burdened with tension and stress. I feel exalted and full of goodwill towards all. End quote. That was good. Okay, so this is like the last few little paragraphs, and it's the end of this book, y'all. If y'all can hang on for a few more minutes. Mystical experiences are like windows which open you up. I'm sorry. Mystical windows are like, I'm sorry. Mystical experiences are like windows which open up for you through your spiritual efforts. They are events which the Spirit uses to encourage you to move towards self discovery. They are like confirmations of your inner discovery, which allow you to believe that there is something beyond the mundane realities of life. Through your meditation practice, you will have many experiences based on your religious education. This means that you may have experiences with Jesus or with angels if you are a Christian, Krishna if you are a Hindu, or Heru if you are Kemetic. If you do not have a specific affiliation, your experience may be of a more abstract nature, not in the form of a deity or religious symbol. In any case, you will begin to experience an expansion in your consciousness, and you will eventually feel a oneness with the universe, bliss, and a peace which you cannot understand or express with the rational mind. These experiences are not normal, they are supernormal glimpses into the divine within you. They will not remain as the everyday forms of consciousness, because if you were in that state all the time, you would not be able to support the practical realities of life. They will fade as experiences of the conscious mind. Hold on. They will fade as experiences of the conscious mind, but their effects will remain as an unexplained feeling of divine presence. You will always be aware of the Supreme Self, which is with you at all times in your innermost heart. Also, you will begin to understand that the same self is the same reality within everyone and everything, and thus you will glorify every activity you engage in and revere the divine in all human beings and in every speck of dust of the universe. That is so true. Even like animals, I wasn't like a big animal person, but I really love nature and animals, and I hate to see somebody doing an animal wrong or beating them, and I'm just like, Pam, you are really becoming soft in your old age. Like I really have a heart. The entire philosophy of meditation brings up many important points. We have spoken about developing intuitional awareness or knowledge of the inner self, but what is intuitional? I'm sorry, hold on. The entire philosophy of meditation brings up many important points. We have spoken about developing intuitional awareness or knowledge of the inner self, but what is intuitional knowledge like? Consider that there are two forms of knowledge. The first is indirect, and the second is direct through experience. However, some knowledge which is intuitional cannot be put into words. When you begin to gaze into the depths of your inner self, you will begin to discover intuitional realization. You will begin to realize the reality of your higher self. It may be likened to the knowledge which you have when you remember some feeling or understanding you had forgotten. Imagine if you could remember the knowledge you had with clear insight. It is something that you know but cannot put into words or explain to anyone, but it is real. It may also be likened to remembering your identity when you wake up in the morning. During the dream, you had certain situations and circumstances which seemed perfectly real and correct. You had a different personality, relations, and circumstances in a dream, but upon waking up, you left all of that behind in favor of your waking identity. The pains and sorrow of human life are due to misunderstanding, mental illusions, and learned negative habits. If you reflect, you will realize that even when something painful occurs in your life, it is only painful as long as you remember it. Think about it. If you lost a loved one or some other tragedy just transpired, you are not miserable 100% of the time. You may forget for some time as you carry on the activities of life, and then all of a sudden, you remember what caused you grief. This means that the cause of pain, as well as the cause of pleasure, is in the mind and the way in which it responds to situations of life. Meditation will lead you to have a transcendental outlook on life in which you transcend your ego existence and see it as you would an actor in a play. This detachment will allow you to see things objectively and not be shaken by the adversities of life. Your true self cannot be affected by the events which will occur to the body. Therefore, having transcended body consciousness through meditation, you will gaze on life with amusement and an integral sense of peace. This is a state in which the full enjoyment of life can be experienced. This is only possible when you see the world through the eyes of the higher self and not through the eyes of the ego. The intensity of spiritual experiences is much greater than those experiences at the physical plane. This is because the body acts as a safety valve in a manner of speaking. If there is too much pain, the body faints or swoons. If there is too much elation, the body also faints or swoons. When the mind and the soul are freed from the body, there is no such safety valve. Therefore, the experiences are more intense. This is why, in the dream state, the objects and situations seem as real as those in the day to day waking state, even though there is less physicality in the dream. After the death of the physical body, the soul continues to have experiences through the subtle body composed of the mind and body. The experiences are caused by the impressions lodged in the deep unconscious levels of the mind. If the impressions are positive, there will be positive experiences. These are sometimes referred to as heavenly conditions. If there are negative impressions, then there will be hellish experiences generated. Thus, the soul of a person leads itself to have experiences of punishment or reward after death for the actions while alive on earth. This is all possible because all experiences in the dream as well as in the waking state are in reality mental experiences. We almost done, y'all. This is the last little bit. The body and senses are only instruments for perceiving objects. In the lower state of meditation, where the relative spiritual experiences occur, or the astral plane, there is conscious awareness that the experiences are mental and have no reality of their own. Thus, the meditator develops mental control and the soul discovers expansion and freedom while reducing fear and extremes of delusion, which lead to intense relative experiences based on the triad of consciousness, subject, object, and relationship between the two. When there is discovery of the absolute transcendental self, there is complete release of egoism, and this release eradicates all possibility of experiencing intense relative emotions. In this sense, meditation is like a controlled exploration and cleansing process of the unconscious mind as well as of the after death experience. Also, the intensity of emotions is an important factor which causes a person to believe in the reality of an experience. Quote, see that prosperity elate not thine heart above measure, neither adversity depress thine mind unto the depths, because fortune beareth hard against you. Their smiles are not stable, therefore build not thy confidence upon them. Their frowns endure not forever. Therefore let hope teach you patience. End quote. And that's an ancient Egyptian proverb. When you are dreaming, the dream seems intensely real, but upon waking is understood to be unreal. This is why the spiritual scriptures admonish a spiritual aspirant to practice contentment, control of emotions, and harmony in day to day activities in adverse situations as well as in prosperous situations. Harmony is practiced by keeping balance in all activities. So don't become upset and begin ranting and raving if a fly lands on your bowl of soup, or a television program was preempted, or if you cannot go out to a party because you had to stay home and take care of your younger sibling, etc. Also, don't become elated when there is some apparent gain in your life. See these as tests, which are only temporary conditions to help you build endurance, patience, forbearance, and inner strength. Someday, your adverse conditions, as well as your prosperous conditions, will fade away. Bruh, and this right here, I had to learn this firsthand. We had to come here. I call this our holding cell until our house is ready. Like we was really trying to work everything out to where we went from our last place right into our home, but things didn't work out that way. And we're here a little bit longer than what we thought we would be, but still it helps us to develop patience, temperance, right? And get our own selves under control because all of those things are out of our control, right? But we have to learn how to be content with whatever state that we find ourselves in, right? Knowing that everything is working together. Let me read this again. Harmony is practiced by keeping balance in all activities. So don't become upset and begin ranting and raving if a fly lands on your bowl of soup, or if a television program was preempted, or if you cannot go out to a party because you had to stay home and take care of your younger sibling, etc. Also, don't become elated when there is some apparent gain in your life. See these as tests, which are only temporary conditions to help you build endurance, patience, forbearance, and inner strength. Someday, your adverse conditions, as well as your prosperous conditions, will fade away. Therefore, do not depend on these. Rather, seek inner peace and do not be shaken by the conditions of life, whatever they may be. As you practice the principles of the meditative lifestyle, you will generate and store new mental impressions of peace and harmony, and these lead to positive experiences in life on earth and in the afterlife. And this is the last page of the book, and it has this chart, right? And it has the self. I'll show it to you real quick, and I'll read over it in this last little paragraph, and that is it for the meditation book. Okay, so I'm gonna read the chart, and in the chart above it, it has the self, and it has the two arrows going up to the self, and so it has 4 rows, and down the first, well, okay, so I'll read it across. So the first row has elation with the arrows, and it goes to peace, and then it goes to sorrow. Then the next line has forgiveness with the arrow to peace, and then the arrows to anger. Then generosity, peace, greed, relaxation, peace, tension. And so, okay, I get it now. These two are the two extremes. Like this side over here is the elation, forgiveness, generosity, relaxation. These are the extremes over here. And over here, this is the other um, end of the spectrum where you have sorrow, anger, greed, and tension. Where you should be is right in the middle of the both of them, not too far to the right nor too far to the left, but right in the middle where there is peace, and which is why it has the self. Right up here at the top, this is the self. And through all of these things, through elation, sorrow, joy, grief, you should maintain a constant state of peace, being balanced right in the middle, right? Not overly joyed or overly angered, but at a middle ground, balance. And a lot of times we have to learn how to be there because we start off from angry, ready to take off heads, and sometimes we overjoyed and it's like, girl, get your head out the clouds, So you have to learn how to come down from the high and maintain a level of peace and just walk on a straight, solid path, right? Keep your footing both ways. Okay, and this is the last paragraph of this book. Those who lead agitated lives live in the realm of relativity and distraction, born of the opposites. People are caught in the endless and enticing issues of right or wrong, you and me, male and female, here and there, and so on. Everything in creation exists in the form of opposites, and in a human being, these opposites create the need to constantly make choices. The main cause of human trouble is not understanding that all opposites emanate from oneness, the self, and that since the innermost self is the reality within, all that a person can ever want is already within them. The key to going beyond the opposites, which agitate the mind and keep a human being involved in a futile search for fulfillment, is to discover inner peace, that middle road. In ancient Egypt, this concept was called Hetep, or some people call it Hotep, which means supreme peace, transcendence beyond the opposites of creation. Peace transcends all opposites, and there is no peace like the peace which comes from spiritual realization through a meditative lifestyle. As you practice meditation and achieve success in leading a meditative lifestyle, you will accomplish the task of developing new positive impressions in your mind. These impressions of peace, communion with spiritual beings, as described above, and divine feeling will begin to replace the impressions of negativity, anger, hatred, jealousy, lust, greed, restlessness, loneliness, depression, etc. You will discover fulfillment and inner happiness, and your outer personality will be transformed in time. This is the process of spiritual enlightenment, which occurs in degree and which can be yours as you practice concentration and meditation on the divine. May you discover the peace, bliss, and joy of self discovery through the path of meditation. end quote. And that, my beautiful people, is all 192 pages of this meditation book, right? So this was really, really good. I hope you all learned a lot and are able to put the principles into play, not with worshiping the characters and stuff, but from the principles that we learned from which each character represented as a attribute of our divine creator, how to make those attributes a part of our life, to keep ourselves on that middle path of peace as we grow and develop in our years while we are here. All right, beautiful people. So that is it for today. We had 2 hours and 15 minutes. And y'all the real MVPs. Y'all all just hung out still to the end. So thank y'all for that. Even if y'all all had one way, I'd still be here by myself recording it all. All right, y'all. So with that being said, that is it for today. I'll write my watch call here. All right, y'all. All right, so remember, for the next couple days, we're just going to be reading just the Oahspe while I revisit the next books in a lineup to make sure we should still go ahead with it, or if not, if we need to adjust, right? Because we do, like, I know we went way over the time today, but like the first 30 minutes is reading like the word, and then the last 30 minutes is kind of like the lab, learning how we can put into practice what we've learned. We've found different books that kind of help us on our way, help us understand the principles that we're learning spiritually so that we can continue to grow and develop in all areas, not just spiritually, but just in life in general, becoming better people, operating with our family, on the job, wherever we find ourselves in life. We don't want to be those type of people that have secret spiritual lifestyles and we live like hellions out here. We're trying to find that middle ground, that peace to where what we do in private with our creator permeates every area of our life, right? And so we walk that in every area, whether we're at work or we're wherever, we're that same person all the time, wherever we are. We're bringing a balance into our life. Okay, what is the chapter next in Oahspe? Oh, the next, I think it was chapter 10. Hold on. I didn't move my thing. We paused at chapter 10 on page in the book of God's word. Yeah, chapter 10 on page 164. So that's what we're going to start off reading tomorrow. Chapter 10, page 164 at the bottom, book of God's word. Let me put that page because I didn't write the page number here. So, all right. So that's what we'll pick up. And I said, for those people who don't have it yet, I was going to share the link. I keep forgetting to share the link to the online Oahspe. If you want to like read along and not just listen to me talk, which you should have your own copy to follow along. Make sure I ain't leading you astray. I mean, I don't plan to do that, but you should verify, like do your own due diligence, have a copy and make sure I ain't reading you something that's not there, right? Okay, but just so your own personal due diligence, right? Make sure you have your own materials and tools to double check whoever you listening to, me and everybody else too. So I'd be like, okay, what's that found? Let me see that. What's that reference? Okay, I trust you, but I want to look at it myself. I'm gonna add it to my references, and that's just being diligent and being a good researcher, y'all. So, but I'm gonna post the link here. I gotta make myself a note. If I forget, y'all, if y'all remember, post a link to the online Oahspe. But when I post it, I will post it starting at that chapter where we're reading, so you can just like click right on it and go right to it instead of going to the index and having to look for it, figuring out the Roman numerals. I'm gonna just post that day. So I didn't do it because I forgot. I'm sorry. But I'll start remembering to post it every day so y'all can just go right to it. All right, y'all. So with that being said, thank y'all for hanging out. It is Sunday, June the 19th, 2022, day 137 of reading through the books of the Law and the Prophets, and of the 4-year consecutive day count, we have been present 1,155 days, with the exceptions of taking off the Sabbath and a couple days I had to not be here, right? Today we read the book of God's word in the Oahspe, pages 154 to page 164. And then the meditation book, we finished reading all the rest of it to the end, and we started on page 186 all the way to the last page at 182. There's a few more pages after that which is filled with the index. I did not read that nor go through it. But if you need to see something in there or go through it, hey, feel free if you got it. It's a few more pages of index, and then it gives some references to some of all his other books, and it has the bibliography, all the reference points, and all of that stuff for these last few pages. And it has where you can get his books. Like if you don't go to Amazon, he give you his site where all of that stuff can be purchased from to give you pictures, previews, and snippets of the book. So all that is there, and it even has an order form if you don't want to order online, where you can actually just mail it in if you still use snail mail, right? All right, y'all. You're welcome. With that being said, that's it, beautiful people. I love y'all, and may y'all bless you all as you continue to walk in truth and apply it to your life. And for all the fathers here today, happy Father's Day. Enjoy y'all day. All right, y'all. I love y'all. See y'all back here tomorrow morning, bright and early, 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So come on to the baby. She ain't ended it in a few days. She coming to end the video today. Come on, girl. They ain't seen your beautiful face for a couple days. All right, go ahead and end it. All right. Y'all. Bye, y'all.